have to ask you several times. Switch on your videos quickly. And this is for all the students. Please respond in the class. Okay? If I'm asking a question, respond. All right. So today we're going to start a new chapter, that is cell, which is most commonly known as the unit of life. Now, why is it known as the unit of life? Because without the presence of any cell, the organism will not be counted as a living organism. So cell is the structural and it is the functional unit of life. All the living organisms are made up of the cell, meaning every single organism, whether it is a bacteria or whether we talk about the humans, all of us are made up of cells. Now, depending upon the number of cells, the organisms can be divided into two types, depending upon the number. The organism that has only one cell in their body, those organisms are known as unicellular, such as amoeba, diatoms, and bacteria. Like there are so many unicellular organisms. Then there is the multicellular organisms, meaning these are the organisms that are made up of more than one types of cells, or more than one cells are present in their body. And the best example is plants and animals. So depending upon the number of the cells that any organism has, they are divided into unicellular and multicellular types. Now, if you're saying that any organism is a living organism, then it means that the organism has cell. If cell is not present in any organism, then that organism will not be considered as living. Okay, so cell, that is why it is known as the most basic, structural, and functional unit of life. Why? Because without cell, the organism will not even be considered as living organism. Any doubts up until now, students?
No, ma'am.
What about the others?
No, ma'am.
Faiz, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. That.
Yes, please respond in the class. Okay, and see, students, you come here like it's like what, 1.5 hours from your busy schedule. You come here, I want undivided attention over here, isn't it? I know that you people have a lot of things going on. There's school, there's tuition, there's so many subjects, and then there is like extracurriculars and everything. But despite of every single thing, I want your undivided attention for 1.5 hours. That's it. That's all I ask. Apart from that, you can do whatever you want to do, but for the time being that you have entered this particular Zoom meeting, pay undivided attention to me and please respond in the class. I do not like a dull class. So any doubts up until now? Unicellular, multicellular, are all of these things clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now talking about how the cell is, like for example, if you take one organism, and let's talk about unicellular organism. Now if we break the words uni and cellular, now see, the word uni means one, the word cellular means made up of cell. So the organism that is made up of just one cell is unicellular. So for example, if this is the cell in their body, now this one cell is their whole entire existence. Now, how does one cell become the whole organism? See, a cell is capable of two most important things. The first thing that one cell is capable of is independent existence. Now, independent existence means that it can live without any support. It can live without the influence of any other cell. So if one cell is there, it can live separate. So that is independent existence. It can exist like that. Apart from that, the second thing which a cell is capable of is performing essential functions of life. Now, one cell can perform variety of functions, right from making the proteins, making the ATP, and so many things, because all of the organelles and things are present inside of the cell. So these 2 points are very important with respect to the cell and how the cell is existing. A cell can do independent existence, and apart from that it can perform every single essential functions, right from respiration, right from protein synthesis, reproduction, every single thing. That is why if only one cell is present, that one cell can be considered as an like a whole entire organism in itself. Now, during the earlier times when like microscope was not even there, during that time, before even the discovery of microscope, people started to talk about, or they started to learn about the cell. And the person who we actually remember, whose name is very important, is Robert Hooke. Now, Robert Hooke, he was the first ever person to discover the cell. And what part of organism did he use? So he discovered the cell from a thin slice of cork. All of you have seen the bark of a tree.
Yes, ma'am.
So when we take cells from the bark of the tree, that part or that piece of cell is known as a cork, or you can say that part of that bark is known as a cork. And when we take a thin slice of it and we see it or observe it, then that is the cell that Robert Hooke discovered. So he took the thin slice of cork. So he studied the cork cells. Now remember that the cork cells or that trunk of the tree is made up of dead cells. So the cell that Robert Hooke discovered, it was a dead cell. Even though his discovery is very remarkable, but the cell was dead. Then came another person whose name was Anton von Leeuwenhoek. Now, Anton von Leeuwenhoek, he discovered the first living cell. Okay, he discovered the first living cell, the live cell. So these two people are very important. Their names are very important to remember. Now, any doubts up until now about how the cell can live on its own? Who discovered the cell? Who discovered the first living cell? Everything is clear to everyone? Hmm? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Students, you had your videos switched on and then you switched it off. What is happening? Hmm? All of those that had their videos switched on, please switch it back on. This is not done. What is happening? You people are like just taking the class like, okay, yeah, we just have to spend 1.5 hours. We'll do it anyhow. Are you not eager to learn, or is this chapter or this whole entire subject only is boring to you? Hmm? Honest opinions. You can be honest. You can say that, ma'am, I'm so bored. You can say that if you're bored.
No, ma'am, it's interesting.
Hmm?
It's interesting.
It's interesting. So, but I don't understand if like it's interesting, then you people don't show interest. I don't know what's the case, why it happens, but I don't know. But listen, students, like every day I hear some kind of, you can say, what, uh, a silly excuse as to why you people cannot, switch on your videos or anything of that sort. Okay, and it's like it's more than enough, and I don't know why you people behave like this in the class, because it's not tolerable. So, and listen, what happens is that if this is the way that things will go on, then I will have to complain to your parents. Then your parents will come into this. So please don't do that. Okay. All that I ask you to is respond. That is it. Anyway, moving forward, let's talk about the next thing, that is cell theory. Now, cell theory, cell was discovered, right? Dead cell was also discovered, living cell was also discovered. Then people started to study more and more about the cell, as to how the cell would function, what does it do, and variety of things about the cell. So then came the formulation of a cell theory. This is like the most important, you can say, concept or phenomena that takes place, that is cell theory. Now, this cell theory is formulated by, or it was formulated by two scientists whose name was Clyden and Swan. Many a times a question like this is asked, like who formulated the cell theory or who gave the cell theory? So, Clyden and Swan. Now, Matthias Clyden. This is his full name. So Matthias Clyden in the year 1838. Now this person was a German botanist. So he was a person who studied plants. So he observed that all the plants are made up of different kinds of cells. And students, tell me one thing, what is formed when many cells come together and make a group?
Tissues.
Issues.
Yes, very good. It's like a tissue is formed. So he saw that in the case of plants, there were many different kinds of cells present, and all those cells uh, they like sort of looked like combined together, and they make up the tissues. Yes, and when the cell was studied, it actually looked like a honeycomb. It saw a structure that had polygonal cells present all along. Clear? Now, so at the same time, there was another scientist whose name was Theodore Swan. And him in the year 1839, he was a British zoologist. So he studied animals and Clyden studied plants. So Theodore Swan, what he discovered, he said that just like how plants were made up of cells, same way animals are also made up of cells and products of cells. Not just, you can say, not just the cell, but cells and their products, some of the products that they have to make. So with this, they were slowly like saying a lot of, you can say, big statements about the plant and animal cells separately, and then they together formulated the cell theory. But again, we talked about that plant cells are there, animal cells are there, but is it anywhere telling us where is the cell coming from? Is it telling us anywhere? Like the cell is coming from this place or that place. Is it telling us that?
No.
No, it's not. So at that point of time, people started to raise a question as to, okay, we understand that we are studying about the cells, plants have cells, animals have cells, but where do those cells come from? And mostly, that we are not immortal, right? Animals are not immortal, plants are not immortal, they are mortal, meaning they'll die after a certain period of time. Same goes for the cells. The cells also die after a certain period of time. Now, those cells that are dead, they have to be replaced by new cells, right? So these new cells, they come from the pre-existing cell, meaning the cells that are earlier there, they will divide and give rise to new cells and then replace the old ones. So this particular line, this origin of the cell, it was explained by another scientist whose name was Rudolf Virchow. Now, Rudolf Virchow in the year 1855, he explained that all cells divide and form new cells. So we can say that cells come from pre-existing cells. And this phenomena in terms of biology is known as omnis cellula, omnis cellula, e cellula. It states that the cells that are coming, it comes from the pre-existing cells. So now we finally formulate the 3 points of the cell theory. And what are the points of the cell theory? The first point says that all living organisms are made up of cells and products of cells. All cells come from pre-existing cells. And the third point states that activities of an organism are the outcome of the sum total of activities and interaction of the cell. Meaning any function that happens in the body of the organism that happens because of the cells and their activities and their interaction with neighboring cells. So these three are the most important points regarding the cell theory. Now, this particular cell theory is applicable to every single living organism, all of them, like whether it is bacteria, whether it is, you can say, higher organisms such as plants, animals, protists, anyone. You say the name, the cell theory is applied to all of them. But there is one exception. Do you people remember the exception? We have studied the biological classification chapter. Do you people remember the exception?
Ma'am, could you repeat the question?
The question is, the cell theory is a universal theory. It is applicable to every single organism, and there is an exception to it. Even though it is universal, but there is an exception. Now, do you people remember what is the exception to cell theory? You must remember. Hmm?
Ma'am, the features.
Yes. Yes.
The features.
Features. No, I'm talking about a certain organism or a certain type, which to which these 3 points that we have mentioned, these 3 points will not be applicable to them. Can anyone tell? Do you people remember viruses? Viruses, they are an exception to the cell theory. Why? Because they are not truly living. They are dead outside the host organism and they become alive once they are inside the host organism. So you can't call them as actually living organisms. So only viruses are the kinds of organisms, or you can say they are the exception to the cell theory. Rest, the cell theory is applicable to all the living organism. It's not applicable to the dead, it's applicable to the living organism. Any doubts up until now? Anything that you people did not understand up until now? I can explain it again. Okay. All right, then you people can note it down. Now, while you're noting it down, you can switch off your video.
Done, ma'am.
Everyone's done?
Yes, ma'am.
Done, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you spell the word before cell theory, the name?
Which one, dear?
The Anton one.
The cell is capable of.
No, ma'am, the Anton one. What is after that? Can you spell it?
Leeuwenhoek. Leuwenhoek. Leeuwenhoek. Done, everyone? Is everyone done?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible, Jobita?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you leave in the middle of the class?
Ma'am, my net went, that's why.
Okay. Done, students?
Yes, ma'am. Done, ma'am.
Everyone's done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm waiting. Done, everyone? Is everyone done?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the others?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
All right. Now moving forward, we are going to see what are the various components of the cell. The cell in general has three basic components. First one, there is the cell membrane, then there is the cytoplasm and cell organelles. Now, just like how we saw how the organisms were divided into two types depending upon the number of cells, same way the organisms are further divided into two types depending upon the membrane. If the membrane is present surrounding the nucleus, then we call that organism as eukaryote. And if the membrane is not present surrounding the nucleus, then we call that organism as a prokaryotic organism. So, prokaryotic organism and a eukaryotic organism, these two are like the whole entire organism in general are divided into that. Now, under the prokaryotes, all the bacteria, cyanobacteria, all of these can come, and under the eukaryotes come the higher organism. Now, let us look at the differences that are there in between a prokaryote and a eukaryote. Now, the prokaryote, they do not have a membrane-bound nucleus and a membrane-bound cell organ, whereas a eukaryotic organism has a membrane-bound nucleus and cell organ. Meaning membrane bound means if that, for example, if this is a nucleus, this nucleus will be surrounded by a layer, and that is known as the membrane of the nucleus. So whenever the membrane is present, we call that organism as eukaryotic, and the one that does not have the membrane, we call it as a prokaryotic organism. Now, in between prokaryote and eukaryote, the prokaryotes are more primitive and the eukaryotic organisms are rather advanced organisms. The cell size in the case of prokaryotic organism is small, meaning they are of smaller size, whereas the eukaryotic organisms are like larger or greater than the prokaryotic ones. Now, the ribosomes are the protein factory of the cell. Now we'll talk about each of them separately, but for now you remember that ribosomes are the protein factories of the cell, and in the case of prokaryotes, the ribosome is of 70S type, and in the case of eukaryotes, the ribosomes are of 80S type. Centrioles are specialized cell organelles that are absent in the case of prokaryotes and they are present in the case of eukaryotic organisms. Nucleolus, which is present inside the nucleus, that is absent in prokaryote because nucleus is only not there and it is present in the eukaryotic organism. Then in the case of prokaryotes, true vacuoles are absent, but gas vacuoles are present. But in the case of eukaryotes, only the plants have true vacuoles. Animals do not have vacuoles. Now, additional small circular DNA segments are there, which are known as plasmid in the case of prokaryotic organism, and plasmids are absent in the case of eukaryotic organism. So, are all the differences between prokaryotes and eukaryotes clear to you people?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, now you people can note it down.
Now can you scroll down?
Yes, sure. Is everyone done till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Done, students?
Done, ma'am.
Everyone's done?
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay, I'm waiting.
Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am.
Everyone's done? Is everyone done, students?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, very good. Now, students, did you have any doubts up until now?